Ya 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 ya. Ha ya 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 ya. Hey ya 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 la da da. Ha ya 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 la da da ya la da da hey ya da ya la da da ya la da 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 oh la da da ya la da da ya na ma la da da ya la da da ma ya la da da ma ha ya la da da ya la da da ya na ya la da won't look like da di da avoid di da fe da ya fe peace really da ya di da avoid di da fe da ya di da fe peace really Achoy siraya siya nasi zamosi Pifrili Achoy siraya siya nasi zamosi ya 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 ha ya 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 dere ya 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 la da da ya ya ha ya 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 la da da ya da ha la da da ya da ya da ya la da da ya da ya la da da ya na ga da da ya da ya la da da ya da ma la da da ya da ya la da da ma da ya la da da ya la da da ya da oh la da da Chaim just a couple of words of introduction before we begin. They tell a story of a person, an individual who made Aliyah, moved to Eretz Yisrael in the north. And right next to him there was a beautiful orchard. And there were oranges growing there. And he's observing these oranges, they look absolutely delicious. So one day he climbs over the gate. He walks over to and he plucks one of the oranges to eat. So the owner turns to him, he says, Adoni, Katul Batorah lo tignov. It's written in the Torah, don't steal. To which the fellow responds, Ma na'im ba'aretz.
Ochlim tapuzim v'shomim divrei Torah. How beautiful it is that in Eretz Yisrael you eat oranges and you hear words of Torah. You know, they once had one of the kinnusim, the tema, the theme of the kinnus had, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it had to do with Avos Yisrael. That was the theme. It was a big chassid. His name was Rabbi Moshe Rubin, Olav Shalom from Montreal. My father, Olav Shalom, grew up in Montreal, so he said he was a sheikhet. Rabbi Moshe Rubin was a sheikhet. And till he prepared, he did everything very, very slow and very, very meticulously and very carefully. So, but he'd prepare and he'd prepare and prepare. By the time he was ready to shecht, and all the goyim who were there would start clapping. They recognized him. He was a remarkable yid. So he came to this kinnis, and the theme was associated with Avos Yisrael. So immediately after one of the main sessions, he walks out of the session, and there's someone there who had a car, and he says, "Can you give me a ride?" This was still here on Eastern Parkway, Olaterra. He says, "Can you give me a ride down to Empire?" The guy says, I'm in a rush. So he opens the back door. He says, "You know what? Not only are you going to give me a ride, but I'm going to tell you a story on the way down to..." So he gets into the car. The guy had no choice. He gets into the car, and he says to him, I don't know if it was the late 1800s or the early 1900s, they came up with this idea of a steamboat. So they had the maiden journey was going to depart from the Boston harbor. And the news announced that everyone should gather and to see this new idea, how to power the ships or the boats. So everybody gathers together, and before they leave, they blew the horn 10 times, 10 times to announce that now we're about to depart on the maiden journey. So they blow the horn one time, it's very, very loud. Then the second time, it's a little bit lower. The third time, even lower than that. By the time they got to number 10, there was no more energy to move the boat. It was gone, it was done. So Rabbi Rubin, he tells the fellow who was giving him a ride now to Empire Boulevard, he says, "We just came from a main session about Avos Yisrael. We had all the speeches, we blew the horns as many times we had to blow the horns. But now when it came time to implement what we discussed, you tell me you can't you can't drive me home to Empire Boulevard." So this introduction is l'chaim l'vracha, that starting with myself, that this should be a Farbrengen, which is not achlim tapuzim. We can eat to our heart's delight. Everything Rabbi Pinson set up, organized here, that's on the table. We could say l'chaim, but it's not in a manner of achlim tapuzim v'shomim divrei Torah, but rather we take it to heart, we try to internalize something from the discussion, this which was shared at the Farbrengen. L'chaim. Ya 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 da ya ya da ya ya la da da ya da ya 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 da ya 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 na ya na ya da 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 ya 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 na ha ya ya la da da ya da ya 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 da ya ya da 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 hey ya da da ya da 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 ya ya da ya ya ha ya 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 da ya da da ya 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 ha ya 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 da ya ya ya
ya ya ya ya ya ya ya ya ya. Hey da ya ya da da ya da da ya da. Ya da ya da ya da ma ya da ma ya da ya na da ya da ha da ya ya na ya da ya la da ya da ha ya da ha ya na ya la da ya da ha ya na hey ya da hey ya na ya da ma ya da ya da ya da ha ya ya da Chaim. What is the Farbrengen? We gather here, Yud Shevat. What is the Farbrengen? What's the purpose of the Farbrengen? So Mendel Futterfass was once Farbrengen,
And a bacher from another yeshiva who had never experienced a Farbrengen happened to attend the Farbrengen, and it's quite unusual sight to behold, particularly as the night advances. People say l'chaim, sing nigunim, and this bacher was trying to get some sort of working definition for what a Farbrengen is. So Mendel Futterfass shared as follows. He said to him, there's a din of chazaka. It's a Gemara, Masechta Bava Basra, Cheskes Habatim, discusses this concept of a chazaka. What does that mean? Ruvain owns a field. And he wants to travel to a distant land for a couple of years. Now, he wants to ensure that Shimon doesn't come onto the field. And we're not talking about squatters' rights. But the halacha is, if after 3 years Shimon's on the field and Ruvain doesn't protest the fact for a period of 3 years, then after 3 years, if Shimon claims that the field is his because he purchased it, even if he doesn't have a shtar to prove it, the field goes to Shimon. That's the halacha. It's the law of chazaka. It's learned out. It's derived from the halacha of Sharamuad. So what should Ruvain do to protect his field? What should Ruvain do? So there's one Gemara gives an eitzah, Yita behem adar. Plant a very large adar tree. Plant a big tree that's called adar. And everyone's going to associate the field with Ruvain. They're all going to know it's Ruvain's field, and no one will ever question that the field belongs to Ruvain. No one will ever claim that it's theirs. But another eitzah is, the Gemara says, that from time to time, Ruvain needs to make a macha. He goes to the local bezdin, wherever he is, and he declares he has to do this before 3 years. So he does it every period of time. He goes before a bezdin, and he declares, this field, so-and-so location, such and such location, belongs to me. It's Ruvain. It's my field. And by doing so, he resets the clock. Now it starts another 3 years. So Mizman Lizman, he should do that, and this will ensure that Shimon never gets the field. So Mendel turned to the bacher. He said, life is difficult. The nisyanis, the challenges that a person goes through on a day-to-day life and living is hard, it's difficult. And we don't necessarily always make the right decisions. We don't necessarily overcome all the challenges. He says, but what is the Farbrengen? The Farbrengen is the macho. The Farbrengen is, we're protesting. It's a moment of truth. It's regardless of what I did and how I acted and how I conducted myself yesterday, the day before, last week. I'm putting that all aside, and it's a moment of declaring the emes as it is. And by doing so, we ensure that the Nefesh Bahamas doesn't make a chazaka, doesn't take us over totally. We push back against the Nefesh Bahamas, the Yetzer Hara, gaining control of us. So that's what I bring. It's a moment of truth. It's a moment when we sing Achsidish Shenigin, and we try to take the ideas that are shared and implement it. My father, Olav Shalom, who I'm going to speak about shortly, as relates to Yud Shevat, which is my parents, Le'ema Shalom. They were mechanchim, they were teachers their whole lives. And my father was probably in his late 70s or close to 80, and we had these professional development sessions that we organized. My parents would come to the front of the room and sit there. Like they wouldn't fall asleep. Maybe a little bit of that also, but mostly they would sit there intently listening to what this. I said to my father one time. I said, "Listen, if you didn't figure it out until now, I mean, wow." So my father would say, "It's worth sitting for a few hours maybe I'll pick up one nekuda, 1 point. Maybe there'll be something that resonates that will help me become a better teacher. I'll prove. One nekuda. So you sit by Farbrengen in a moment of truth. Maybe there's one story, maybe there's one word that will inspire us to protest what the Nefesh Bahamas is set out to do. So l'chaim levracha. Happy to be here in Beis Shmuel, Kanziva, and Crown Heights, together with all the Chassidim here. Thank you, Rabbi Pinson.
It's an honor to have you.
L'chaim levracha. Let's Farbrengen together, sing a Chassidish niggun in honor of Yud Shevat.
Oh, it's Chaim.
L'chaim levracha.
Chaim. Yellow, Yitzi. The guy in the corner wants L'chaim.
Is there official Balmanag? There's no official
The
Balmanag.
guy usually does it from the Azov and he's pushing on.
Where is everyone? Maybe my
Freezing. It's actually freezing.
By the way, this to me is always the coldest. We used to take buses.
That's right.
A lot of times it was a bus.
That's what you're saying, folks.
Ya yada yo yada ma yada da yada yada ha yada ya yada na 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 ya na da ya yada da 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 ha yada ya yada ma ya yada yada ha yada da 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 ya la da yada da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya 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 da ya da 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 ya da ya da ha da 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 ya da ya la da da ya la da 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 ma ha da 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 ha da 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 ya da 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 ya da ya da ya la da 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 ya da da ya da na ma na na ya da da ya la da da ya la da 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 ma ya da 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 aha ya da ya da da ha ya na da 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 ya na da da ya da da ya na ya ma ya da da ya ma da da ya na 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 la da 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 ya da da ya la da da ya la da da ya la da 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 ma ya da da hey ya da da ya da da ya da ya da ya da ya na ya da da ya da ya da 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 ya da la da da ya la da da ya la da 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 ma ya da 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 ya ya na ma ma ya da da ya ma da da ya ma da da na 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 ya ma da da ya na ya da da ya da ya na ya na 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 ya da la da ya la da ya la da ma ya da ay 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 la da ay 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 la da ay 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 la la Chaim l'racha. Shreinu matayv chalkeinu, that we have a connection to Yud Shvat. So my father, Olav Shalom, was born in Montreal, Canada. In Tavshin Aleph, I believe, or in that around Tavshin Aleph, 1941, 9 Bacharim from Shanghai landed in Montreal. And they started a yeshiva there in Montreal. By the way, it's around the same time, Baruch, when the yeshiva in Pittsburgh was founded. Originally, Rabbi Mordechai Oltein came to Pittsburgh in Tavshin Aleph, 1941. And then Rabbi Posner came a year and a half later. And Rabbi Mordechai Oltein came as a bacher, and Rabbi Posner came already married, and founded the Yeshiva Achei Tmim in Pittsburgh. But at that time, in Tavshin Aleph, 9 bacherim from Shanghai arrived in Montreal, Canada.
And my father was from the first Talmidim who attended the yeshiva. In fact, there's a picture of the first graduating class, and my father's in that picture. When he graduated 8th grade, he wanted to go away to learn in yeshiva. And he got onto a train, traveled himself. I don't know if he was 13 or 14 years old. And he came to learn in Torah V'das. He's a Talmud in Torah V'das. He excelled in his learning. He was to find a Bachrim there. And he was chosen to go to California to found the yeshiva Ur El-Chonon. It wasn't Ur El-Chonon Chabad. It was called Ur El-Chonon. It was a yeshiva named after Rabbi Chonon Wasserman. And the Rosh Yeshiva was Reb Simcha Wasserman. I just want to, for a moment, digress. And you'll help me come back. I tend to do that. That I was a shliach in South Africa, Tavshim Mem Daled and Tavshim. I was the first kfutza to go to South Africa in 1984 and 1985. We were there for 2 years, close to 2 years, a little less than 2 years. Torah Academy. And we had Chiddush before we went to get in Natachten. It's a whole different story. But when I was in South Africa, in the grocery store, I see once a zettel hanging. Tzadik Bola'ir. Rabbi Simcha Wasserman is coming to town. Tzadik Bola'ir. So because of the fact that I knew the connection there, I figured I'm going to go meet this gentleman, this man, this Rosh Yeshiva, just to introduce myself. So he gave a speech, and after the speech, I walked over to him. I said, my name is YOSSI Rosenblum, mentioned my father's name. He looks at me and he says, Viste geworden a Lubavitcher? I didn't say one word who I was, but it must have been on my nose. Anyways, I told him the story. So my father was in Ur El-Chonon. He learned with Simcha Wasserman. His chavrusa was Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, who wrote the Living Torah and other svarim like that. And he had a bunch of chaverim. There was actually a write-up on this whole thing. I was interviewed in one of the, I forget, Hamadiyah, or one of the papers about this whole. Anyway, so he was with a group of Choshev Torah V'das Bachrim, and he was there. He returned to New York, and he came Tishrei to Crown Heights. His sister just passed away 5 weeks ago. This is Sarah Kahanov, just passed away. His older sister was married to my uncle Chaim Moshe Kahanov, and she had a yechidus with the Rebbe sometime, must have been at the end of Tishrei or beginning of Cheshvan, and the Rebbe said to her, she shared who were her guests for Yontif. She mentioned my father. Her brother was one of the guests. And the Rebbe said, again, the exact words, I can't be sure of the exact words, but the idea, the teichen, anyways. Why did he go back to Torah V'das? My father. Why did he go back to Torah V'das? He learned in Taim Chet Mim in Montreal. Why did he go back to Torah V'das? Stam Lahar, my father was also was attending a Tanya Shir given by Rabbi Beryl Yunik, and he also wrote into the Rebbe Duch of who was attending the Tanya Shir, and the Rebbe asked him also, Aleph Reish, what's with Aleph Reish? Why the Rebbe had him pegged that he's supposed to come to learn it back to Taim Chet Mimim. On his Matzeva it says that. So there was a whole meeting. My aunt and her husband, Chaim Moshe, and Rabbi Chaikin, who was close to my father as well, knew my father. How they going to try to convince him to come back? I'll just mention.
Where was his parents?
They were living in Montreal, Canada. They moved to New York later on. My
They had
grandfather
shaykhs?
owned. They had a shaykhs through their children. They had a shaykhs through their children. No background. They're Polish Yidden, Erlich Yidden, living in Montreal. They moved to New York eventually. Lived here for many years. I will just mention. I forgot to mention this point. That Yutes Kislev, Tovshin Yud, my father came to the Farbrengen here. He was convinced, Tovshin Yud, right before Yud, what is that, 5 weeks before Yud Shevat, he came to the Farbrengen. He came to the Friedrich Rebbe's Farbrengen. I'll just give you just another piece of information. That my father was a very truthful person. He was always searching. He said Tevet Das those years was in Williamsburg. He would always go and visit all the different tishon. He would go and this one and that one and the other one. I once went with him on a tour of Williamsburg to see the various places that he visited. So one time, one of the Gedali Yisrael came to Tevet Das to speak. It's not Negei who. It's not important now who. So my father said to his friends, "What makes him a gadol? What makes him a gadol? Why is he a gadol? What makes him a gadol?" So they wanted to lynch my father. What do you mean? Haytachin? He's a gadol b'Yisrael. He's one of the big Rosh Hashivas. What makes him a gadol? Anyways, Yutas Kislev, my father came. They convinced my father to come to Farbrengen. It's the last Yutas Kislev, Chaim Chayus said the Friedrich Rebbe, and you couldn't get into the room where the Friedrich Rebbe was actually Farbrengen. That wasn't possible. The Bachram stood outside. He's sitting, he's standing, pushing, whatever. And he was about to leave because he didn't, there's nothing much going on. He couldn't hear, he couldn't understand, he wasn't even inside the room. But his friends told him, stay, wait a couple minutes. He ended up staying, then there was a hefsek, and the Friedrich Rebbe started saying l'chaim to people. My father looks at the Friedrich Rebbe. He said he couldn't look at the Friedrich Rebbe's face. Later on, he came back to yeshiva and he said, "Today I saw a gadol." So his friend said, "No, how do you define a gadol?" My father said, "You can't define it. You have to experience it. You can't define it. You have to see it." Once heard a story. There was a Chavri Knesset Ben Meir. There was a Chavri Knesset Ben Meir. So his father, this guy Ben Meir, he told the story once to the Bachram who were doing Mivtza Tefillin in Kennedy Airport by the El Al terminal. So he said that he was a junior inspector for the government. To 770 had applied for some sort of funding for some sort of grant, as is done by certain, we're funded by the various programs, whatever. So he went with a senior inspector who wasn't Jewish. This Ben Meir. They come into 770. They look around. They wrote down the numbers. It didn't add up to what was necessary. So the senior inspector, he's about to. It doesn't pass. Someone summoned him upstairs to the Friedrich Rebbe. The Friedrich Rebbe wants to see him. So he comes in to the Friedrich Rebbe's room, and the Friedrich Rebbe doesn't say anything. He makes with as if he should sign the document. So this inspector takes out a pen and he signs the document. So then Meir says to him, "What happened? What just happened?" He says, "You didn't see what I saw. It was an angel of God sitting over there." I don't push back against, I'm not going to turn down a request from a malach, from an angel. So this is what my father saw. This is what my father observed. So Yutas Kislev, he was there, and then Yud Shvat, he was by the Levaya. He was there. He came with Bachram to Levaya. So now he's by Yechidus with the Rebbe. He eventually tells his sister that she can help arrange Yechidus. He comes into Yechidus with the Rebbe. And the Rebbe tells him directly, he should come learn in Teim Chitmim. He should come learn in Teim Chitmim.
How old is he then?
He probably was 16, 17, something like that. 18. Probably was more like 17, 18. I don't remember exactly. Right now, I'm not calculating the years well. He comes into Yechidus. By the way, the Rebbe fahered my father, I think 3 times at least. I'll talk about one of the faher soon. But he fahered him 3 times. But he's having a conversation with my father, tells him to come. So the Rebbe says, what should he tell the Rosh Hashivas at Teredas? Why is he coming to Lubavitch? Why is he coming to Lubavitch? So the Rebbe says to him that he should tell them that he learned in Lubavitch Amol, because he learned in Lubavitch in Montreal, and therefore he's coming back to learn in Lubavitch again. So my father, who was at that point, and he was new to this all, he said to Rebbe, I'm not comfortable saying this. I'm not comfortable sharing this with the Rosh Hashivas at Teredas. So the Rebbe said to him like this: tell them whatever you want to tell them. If you have something else to tell them what you want to tell them. The main thing is, whatever you tell them should be truthful. Don't make up any stories. Tell them it should be truthful. Anyways, he thought this, he thought that. He ended up telling them what the Rebbe recommended that he tell them. And then he came to learn in 770. Interesting that the Rebbe, in the first part of the Yechidus, the Rebbe when interacting with my father, he used the term ear, which is a more formal type of interaction. Ear was ear. As soon as the Rebbe, as my father agreed, told the Rebbe he'll come to 770, the Rebbe said to him, do, which is it's an indication of closeness, the family, etc. You use the do. He switched up that language. And my father came to learn in 770. At my father's Shloishim, Rabbi Nosson Sherman spoke. He was a very close friend of my father. In fact, we found a whole exchange between the two of them when my father was coming to Lubavitch, and he grew a beard, and etc., etc. There was a whole exchange between Rabbi Nosson Sherman and my father about all these minhagim Chabad. So Rabbi Sherman spoke at my father's Shloishim, and he said the whole group of Bachrim from the Baruch Chana and Teredas were trying to pressure him to go to Lakewood. He said what was Lubavitch's gain was Lakewood's loss. That's what he said by the... So Ashreinu Matayv Chalkeinu, each and every one of us has a story of how we got here. That's my story, short, bekitzer. But we thank the Eibishter, the Ashreinu Matayv Chalkeinu, that we have a shaykhis to the Rebbe. We have a shaykhis to Yud Shvat. There's no greater gift that I could have been gifted, and my children and grandchildren. To have a shaykhis to the Rebbe and a shaykhis to Chassidus. L'chaim u'levracha. We should celebrate that. I'm sure each of you could tell a story, a personal story, similar. Right now, I'm talking. That's how Rabbi Moshe Pinson told me I have to speak, so I'm speaking. This is my story. I'm sure each one has their own personal story, but the main thing is, Ashreinu Matayv Chalkeinu. What's this?
Ramming an attack on 770.
There is? Everything okay?
Yeah.
They caught the person?
Yeah.
Look where he is.
He tried to get in. How
Ramming the car in and out.
He tried to. No one was hurt.
I mean, he wasn't bringing ice cream.
The police caught him.
Yeah.
No one's hurt, it's okay, but it's a reminder that
They need security.
needs to be discussed.
Chaim u'levracha. Security should be discussed. Ashreinu Matayv Chalkeinu. Everything will be okay. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll Farbrengen together. This is a remarkable story.
Yeah.
Chaim u'levracha.
He just wanted to come from Farbrengen, honestly. He didn't think he would be let in. He didn't realize.
The only problem is all the Farbrengens got run up, that everyone got kicked out.
Oh, they
Evacuated.
Yeah, but now it's gone. Back to normal.
The car was going to blow up.
Yeah, that's a good word. It's a serious worry.
Yeah,
You saw they popped up in the trunk right away.
Yeah, but now everything is over. Everybody's back to channel 1.
Na 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 ya yedima yeda ya yena na 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 ya yedima yeda ya yeda I doubled that. Ditto.
Okay, now we can see. Ramo.
My father was Hevedas and
Ramo.
Montreal, Canadian. Hevedas.
How's your nap?
1943. No. 53.
Your grandparents were Lubavitchers. I thought the
My mother. Volosov.
Sharon
My uncle. He's a Pittsburgher.
This time I have a picture. If you ever, I'm assuming you've seen it, but I don't know, maybe not. You met Simon in front of Jeff Silverman. His big long hair.
Get it to me, please.
It's phenomenal.
You have a picture. Yeah. What happened? Where did you go? I did it. Watch what's going on. I did it. I did it. I did it. We don't have to evacuate. We're okay.
Everything is fine.
What?
The neighbors are good luck.
Really?
They got all the emergency vehicles came on here. But it seems like it's over.
Nah. One guy and it wasn't well planned.
That's the scary part.
The muzzle.
Did he have anything weaponized? Didn't try to stop him. Where the police are? Chaim.
People are funny, let me tell you.
How'd you end up in Pittsburgh?
The parents came to Pittsburgh.
Are they
Shluchim. First my father, they got married, and they went on shlichus to Pittsburgh.
Come in the middle of a story.
And I was born there.
No, he said that part of the story?
Yitzi.
He was with Shmuel Lou? He must have been with Shmuel Lou.
He's probably older than him. What's your name, Yitzi?
Yitzi Camp.
He's the Vada Kol Crown Heights.
Herschel Hartz's cousin.
Wow, very nice. You have to come.
Claim to fame.
You have to come visit Pittsburgh. It's Hashem.
Stroll old times class. Alright, there's two. Rothstein on Pittsburgh. You, Shimon Rosen. Oh.
Here we have.
Shira Wine.
Wayne?
What?
No one.
Oh, they're from Pittsburgh or Paris. Married Hezroni.
Weinstein.
Weinstein.
Chaim Levracha. At one of the Yichidusin that my father had with the Rebbe, and by the way, just to digress for a moment, my father's birthday is Vav Shvat.
Oh, wow. Menachem Levy's birthday also.
The day before the time of Simcha's birthday.
So every year we would go for Yechidus around this time. Yud Shvat was, but one of the Yechidusin that my father had with the Rebbe, as I mentioned before, the Rebbe fahered him at least 3 times that I know of. Bachrim would go in, and the Rebbe would faher them. Younger Bachrim, older Bachrim. I just saw to digress for another second here. I just read, Bacher went in, a kid went into Yechidus, and the Rebbe fahered him on Elam Metzias. And he asked him questions. The boy answered. He was a student of Rabbi Shaya Weber in Eretz Yisrael. Bacher was interviewed with Rebbe fahered. The Rebbe asked him questions. The Rebbe asked him, if you would find Meiser Tuk on the street, would you have to give it back? What? And then the Rebbe said to him that he should give over to his classmates and to his Melamed what the Rebbe asked. So more recently, he came back and he gave over to Rabbi Shai Weber, his teacher, that the Rebbe fahered him, and this was the question, this was the answer. Recently, Rabbi Shai Weber told him that at that moment, that period of time, he was debating if he should continue teaching. Chinuch is a complicated crash. It's not easy to be a teacher ever.
It's not complicated.
It's a complicated profession.
Not everyone's a blue ribbon school.
Even in blue
And at that moment, he was struggling with being a Malamed, and he was questioning maybe he should change course and do something different. He said, but when this Bacher came back, one of his Talmidim came back, and he gave over that the Rebbe fahered him, and the Rebbe said that he should share with his Magid Shir, his Malamed, and the Talmidim, this gave him a tremendous amount of chizuk, and because of that he continued teaching. That's how the Rebbe fahered my father. My father was learning Masechta Gittin at the time. And at the beginning of Masechta Gittin, the Gemara discusses the halacha, if somebody brings a get from Medina Sayyab, from another country, from a distant land, he brings it to Eretz Yisrael, he has to say these words. 2 witnesses, they say, B'fanai nichtav b'fanai nachtav. That before me this get was written and it was signed. And there's a machlokes between Rab and Rav. I don't want to get into all the details of this halacha, but just briefly, there's a question: why does the shliach who brings the get have to say these words? Rabbi says, "L'fi she'ein bikin l'shma." People in Medina Sayyam were not knowledgeable about the fact that a get needs to be written specifically for the woman that the person's divorcing. If someone's name is Ruvain, and the lady's name is Sarah, and you find a star that's written, a get that's written by another Ruvain to another Sarah that was never used, you can't take that. It has to be written specifically from Ruvain to Sarah. It's a din of Lishma. The cost of law, it has to be written Lishma. So that's why the Shliach Hasei B'fanei Nichtav, it means B'fanei Nichtav Lishma, was written appropriately. So the Rebbe said to my father, he said, let me explain that idea in Avodas Hashem. He says, every single person has a Nefesh HaBahamis, a Yetzer Hara. Every single person. And when dealing with your Nefesh HaBahamis, you have to know specifically the shortcomings of your Nefesh HaBahamis. There can't be some sort of general idea of, I have to improve, I have to grow, I have to change, I have to improve. It can't be that way. It has to be Lishma. You have to have you have to be reflective, introspective of who you are, what are the areas in your life that you're working on, that you have concern in, and you have to address them specifically. Point number one. Point number two, the Rebbe said, the other opinion is that why does the Eid have to say B'fanei Nichta, B'fanei Nachta? Because you need witnesses, you have to have witnesses who could say testimony on the witnesses who signed on the document. So the Rebbe said to my father, and you also have to have a mashpia, that's the witness, who can guide you and can help you identify those shortcomings and can testify that you're actually trying to grapple with and overcome and transform whatever those shortcomings are. This is what the Rebbe told my father. Shlomo Chaim Kesselman, the Mashpia in Eretz Yisrael, I think he heard this from the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab told him that a person, every individual, has to think about the following three things. He has to think about was ich darf sein. Who do I have to become? What do I have to become? Long term, what do I have to become? Who do I have to become? You have to think long term. What's the end result? When I grow up, I want to be a fireman. What do I want to become? What do I want to become? You have to think long term. I'll tell you something. I once traveled. I used to travel relatively often, back and forth, and fly around a little bit here and there. New York, back and forth. So, in Pittsburgh, they used to have short-term parking, long-term parking, and they had the same number system. Now they changed it. They used to have, so there was like 4B could be long-term or short-term. So I arrived one time in Pittsburgh. I traveled international. First of all, I'm looking for my ticket. Now I leave it in my car. I'm looking for my ticket in my pocket. I'm looking to see where I put the ticket. I can't find it. So I realized I left it in my jacket, in my suitcase. I don't know if you ever arrived somewhere and you have a suitcase. You have to open up the suitcase in front of hundreds of people who are watching you to look for something that's in there. So I start rummaging through my suitcase, and I find the ticket. That was the first thing. Then I take the ticket and I head to 4D, where I'm parked. I arrive at 4D. I'm telling you a true story. The car's not there. So what happened? Someone took the car. Then I chaptzach that I was parked in long term, not short term. It's parked long term, not short term. So I'm walking from short term to long term. I'm thinking to myself, what's the message in Avodas Hashem? And I'm thinking to myself that we got very, very caught up in short term. Right now, what's going to happen now? What's happened today? And sometimes you have to think, like long term. I once heard President Ronald Reagan was had a very good humor. He had a very good humor. So he once told a story. He said, in Russia, the former Soviet Union, Chaim Levracha.
Good morning, Yossi.
Look very serious today.
It's Shevat. Trial. Serious.
So he says, this is the story. He says, in the former Soviet Union, and I'll talk about that later because I was there during the difficult years. He says, the former Soviet Union, it took 10 years to buy a car. You hear that? If you ordered a car in September 1965, you ordered a car, so you'd get it September 1975. That's the backlog in cars was 10 years. You hear that? 10 years. 10 years. So this guy comes to the dealer, September 1965, and he says, I want to buy a car in September 1975. Fine. He says, so the purchaser says, when can I pick up the car? In the morning or the afternoon? So the guy looks at him incredulously. He says, now you're worried about picking up the car in the morning or afternoon in 10 years? So he says, you don't understand. He says, the plumber's coming in the morning. So you have to think the plumber's coming in the morning, the plumber. You have to think, was ich darf sein, this is what Shlomo Chaim said. You have to,
We live in New York.
you have
It's
to,
not funny.
it's not funny. You have to think, was ich darf sein, long term, when I grow up, what do I want to become? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Long term, who do I want to be? And the potential is unbelievable, long term, was ich darf sein. I'll get back to the Yechidus in a second. Was ich darf sein. And who do I want to be? My father would tell a story. There was a Russian guy. He was a sergeant in the army, and his name was Igor, and he had a private who, one of his soldiers, was called Grisha. So Igor says to Grisha, he says to him, "You're a fantastic soldier. You're a fantastic soldier." He says, "But if you wouldn't drink so much, you could become a sergeant like me. You can become a sergeant like me." So Grisha says to him, he says, "When I drink, I'm a general." We have to think, was ich darf sein, Chassidim of the Rebbe, I can become a general. I can conquer the world. Soon seen how. That's was ich darf sein. The second step is was ich ken sein. By the way, there's this in the theory of change. There's something called the desired state. That's was ich darf sein. Was ich darf sein. Then there's something called the present state. That's what I am now. And then there's something called the gap analysis. How do I get from here to there? But then Reb Shlomo Chaim's YOSSI, he heard from the Rebbe Rashab, and the Rebbe Rashab told him that the Bochrim on Thursday night should reflect on these three things. Was ich darf sein, what I have to become eventually. Was ich ken sein means what can I become now? What is realistic for me to become right now at this point? There's the Rebbe one time made a siyum. If I'm talking too loud, I stop. Farbrengen, you'll tell.
You're doing perfect. Just make sure
The Rebbe one time made a siyum on Masechta Yuma. And by the way, it's that siyum, the yard site, he's made the siyum of Vov Tishrei, the yard site of his mother, Rebbe Tzachana. And everybody knows the last Mishnah in the Yuma. Everybody knows.
Everybody.
The reason everybody knows is because there's famous songs that are Ashreichem Yisrael, Lifnei Miatim Mitarim, Mi Mitar Eschem. Everybody knows the song. It's all different types of tunes. Everybody's familiar with this tune. Everybody's familiar with this tune. So the Rebbe made a siyum one time on this Masechta, and the Rebbe said like this. The Mishnah said like this: Ma mikveh mitares atmeim, af HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitares Yisrael. Just like a mikveh is mitar the impure, Afa Kodesh Baruch Hu Mitaras Hatmeim. The Rebbe asked numerous questions on that Mishnah. Numerous questions. You can look up the Sikha yourself to get the whole picture there. But the main question is, Ma mikveh mitar satmeim. Of course, it should have said Ma mikveh mitar. It should have just said, just like a mikveh is a tar. What else is a mikveh mitar if not tmeim? It's redundant. The word tmeim is redundant. Second of all, Ashreichem Yisrael. How praiseworthy Bnei Yisrael is that who purifies you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What are we praising HaKadosh? Why is Hashem so praiseworthy? Wouldn't one think that this which Hashem is Mitar Bnei Yisrael is part of it? That's elementary. That's basic. And here's what the Rebbe said by that Farbrengen. Let's see him. And the Rebbe said this. The Rebbe cried when he said these words. The Rebbe was extremely emotional when he said these words. There's a din as follows. If someone is tamei on two different levels, he's impure because he touched something he's impure for 24 hours. And now he's also impure for a week because he touched for whatever the circumstances were. Now the question is, if someone's tamei from a lower level of tumah, and he's tamei with a higher level of tumah, does it make sense to purify yourself from the lower level of tumah if you're still going to remain impure? Logic dictates that no. Why should I purify myself from the lower level of tumah if I'm still going to remain tamei? But the halacha is not like that. The halacha is that if you can cleanse yourself, if someone can cleanse themselves from a lower level of tumah, even if there's still something even a greater level of tumah, it's still worthwhile. And that's the pshat in this Mishnah. You have to see him. Ma mikveh mitares atmeim, just like a mikveh purifies someone who's still gonna be tamei after he goes to the mikveh. That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu interacts with a yid. The Rebbe said that a yid comes before the Eibishter and he says, there's a level of darzain. I have to become such and such, a general, like Grisha. I have to become a general. But I don't have the energy, the wherewithal, the ability right now to transform myself and to become what I need to become in the long term. So the Eibishter accepts whatever we can give him. The Eibishter accepts whatever we can give him. We can give him this. We can commit something to the Rebbe, to the Eibishter. He takes that. He accepts it. Chassidus, people think that, you learn about a Beinani and Tanya, that it's either you are a Beinani or you're not a Beinani. It's not Gora de Garnish. There could be an area in your life that what we perfected. Right now, that's what I give. So there's was ich darf sein, what I have to become, and was ich can sein, what I can become. That's the second level. I had in Pittsburgh in the 70s, there was a public school strike. And it used to be, before the public school strike, there were a small group of Talmidim, two separate. And all of a sudden there's a public school strike, and we had a lot of, many students came. Some came just for a month till the public school strike ended, and some stayed for a long time afterwards. So there's one person there that he was there for, his name is Jay, and he attended yeshiva, and he took on this hachlota that he's going to say Kriya Shema Shalamita. No matter what, he went to the army. He says, doesn't make a difference where I am, what circumstances is. Shema, I don't go to sleep without saying Shema. I always say Shema. So for him, the decision of saying Kriya Shema Shalamita was 100%, 1,000%. He was a Beinani in this area. He had totally perfected this one area of his life. So there's Vasich Dar Zayin, that's the long term, that's the goal. And then there is Vasich Ken Zayin. What can I be today? What can I give the Rebbe today? Yud Shvat, Tov Shin, Pei Vav. Yeah, we're holding? What can I give the Rebbe? What's now? When the Rebbe made that siyum, Vav Tishrei, the Rebbe was crying when he said this. You know, say to the Eibishter, sometimes you see these construction sites. You see the sign that says there, excuse the parents, construction in progress. So you say to the Eibishter, was ich ken sein. But it all starts with the first step. The Rebbe told my father in Yechidus, and that the third level, the first level that Shlomo Chaim spoke about, was ich bin, who am I today? We're sitting by Chassidus Farbrengen, and Farbrengen is a time of it's a moment of truth. This is a moment of truth. Chassidim sitting together, Yud Shvat, and first and foremost, before we can talk about was ich darf sein, und was ich ken sein, we have to be, who am I today? What am I in actuality? What am I? Who am I today? But to be very, very honest, there was a debate between, like this. There's two clocks. One doesn't work at all. It's stuck. Let's say, what time is it now? 5 to 10. It stays on 9:55 forever. Then there's another clock that's 3-4 minutes behind. It's always 3-4 minutes behind, but it's constantly going. Which one is better? Anybody? Which one is better? The one that's totally stuck?
It's right.
Which is better?
The one that's behind.
So
That's behind.
so what's your svara? Why is the one that's, because he said it's twice a day true, it's correct. That's what he said. Twice a day correct.
You never know what time that is.
But you said
Time is a
You
construct.
Stop it.
yeah, so in Bris states to say twice a day it's truthful. But Bachsidim, they didn't accept it. Why? Because it's not twice a day accurate. It's not true.
It's wrong.
It's always wrong. It's not accurate. It's fooling itself. It's fooling you. That moment, it pretends. You looked at it. That moment, you think it's accurate. It's not accurate. It's false. It's not true. It's not 9:55. It's broken. It's 9:55. It happens to be Bashkoch Protz, but the clock is not indicating that. But the one that's 2 or 3 minutes behind, he must have been at Pittsburgh or something.
No, I'm just a big London.
Yeah. Chaim.
My Schwieger from Pittsburgh, so where's off? The Evans. Chaim to Rivka.
Yeah.
Your side.
You have to be the one that's 3 minutes behind. At least is truthful. I'm behind, but I know I'm behind. It's real. It's real. MS. We have to know who we are. It all starts with that. You can't move anywhere without having a clear understanding of where I stand. Then I can make all sorts of achlotas. That's what the Rebbe was saying to my father in that Yechidus. That it has to be l'shma. You have to know yourself. You have to have a mashpia who helps you determine who you are, who we are. And then you can move from there. We can move from there. So Chaim Levracha. This is a shas. This period of time is a holy time, and it's a shas kosher. And I once had a Rosh Yeshiva. I told you before I was a shliach in Johannesburg. So Rosh Yeshiva said to us once. We're sitting at Purim. He said, the 24 hours are going to go by. They're going to go by one way or another. The question is what you're going to do with the 24 hours. I remember this. There are certain things that you remember forever. So he said to us, this 24 hours is going to go by. Either we're going to make something of it, or we're not going to make something of it. It's going to go by one way or another. But it's a holy time. It's a time, it's an opportunity to achieve things in the realm of iskashrus, in the realm of personal growth, etc., etc. And the yearning for Mashiach. It's a time that we can draw from the energy that exists in the world at this moment, these hours of Yud Shvat, Gimel Shvat, this holy time. We can draw from this. The Eibusher shall helfen, that we should recognize the opportunity in front of us, the opportunity before us. That's a Farbrengen. We're making a macho. It's a moment of truth to Farbrengen together, to be truthful with ourselves and each other, and to hopefully take an akuda and try to implement it into our lives. L'chaim.
Zaman, das so war wieder. They're doing just fine.
EDs, they only got 8,000 cops now. On the pathway. They've lost off the
Good to see you, Maishi.
Of course. Yeah, that's how was it the past few days?
Baruch Hashem. So Maishi Reichik is asking me, this is a very important question. When I came to the Farbrengen, Rabbi Moshe Pinson, he told me that you Farbrengen for Beis Shmuel. And then I arrived there, and then they told me COL, that it's being, so I was wondering, why COL involved in the Beis Shmuel Farbrengen? I didn't know why this is even going on. Then I realized the reason. Moshe just asked me, he said, what's doing with your campaign? So the answer is because we're in the middle of a charity campaign.
He is
Not Moshe. Yeshiva schools of Pittsburgh. Fuel the joy. So if I'm going to tell the people of Beis Shmuel that I'm involved in a charity campaign, okay. But now it's COL. Everyone has COL. The Yeshiva schools of Pittsburgh charity campaign. Fuel the joy. It's not too late. Chaim Levracha. And Moshe just reminded, Moshe's a, come here Moshe. Moshe's a graduate of Yeshiva schools from Mesivta, right Moshe? Moshe Reichik. Yeah. And he asked me how did the the campaign go? So that's, he reminded me that this is a Chaim Levracha.
Johnny, happy birthday.
Huh?
Yes, why not Chaim? Oh, only one.
Hiya da da da, ya da da da, ya da da da. Hiya da da da, ya da da, ya. Hiya da da. Good to see you again.
My yichus is also that your nephew Yankel and I were Chabrusta in Shiva for many years.
Which yeshiva?
Morristown, we did Smicha together.
He lives in South Hills, but it's parents. La 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 la, ya. Na 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 na, la ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da da. Da 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 da. What's going on? Of course. Who's your brother? Ya da da da. Everything's okay. Ya da da ma ya da da ma ya da 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 la da da la. Hey la da da la da la da da. Hey da 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 ya da da da. Chaim L'Bracha.
The story with your father and the Friedrich Rebbe, that was the one time he saw the Friedrich Rebbe?
How would you know
The
that?
father saw the Rebbe Yutes Kislev, Friedrich Rebbe Yutes Kislev, the last Yutes Kislev of the Friedrich Tavshin Yud, 6 weeks before Yud Shvat. That's when that story
Not
happened.
everyone was here for the Friedrich Rebbe story. So they
It's
must
not
have
no, it's about to close. 8 o'clock the thing starts, yeah? So you come at 9:30. He told the story at 9:15.
Food at the end of the wedding also because people missed it at the beginning.
I'm just saying, as someone that's an elected official, you know?
Chaim L'Bracha, join me. There's enough L'chaim to go around.
Yeah, absolutely.
And L'chaim L'Bracha.
YOSSI. What's going on out there?
Sounds like a party.
Somebody closed down, so I guess.
So we find ourselves Yud Shvat, quite a few years after Gimel Tammuz. And most of us, if I could speak for myself, have not achieved was ich darf sein. We haven't necessarily become what we need to become. Not necessarily. I don't want to belittle anybody around this table who's different. I'm talking about my own experience. Most of us are still struggling. Was ich ken sein. We try a little bit at a time. But I want to share just a couple points about post Gimel Tammuz. What does this kashrus look like? Yud Shvat, Tavshin Pei Vav. Couple points. The first point, in Tavshin Chavav, 1966. If I make a mistake with the date, you'll excuse me. Yud Beis Tammuz. The Rebbe Farbrengen, Yud Beis Tammuz, associated with the Friedrich Rebbe. And in the Farbrengen, the Rebbe asked the following question. The Gemara tells us that the daughter of Chanina ben Doisa once came crying to her father because she lit the candles, Shabbos candles, with chaymetz, with vinegar instead of with oil. And she came crying to her father. And her father said, the same Eibishter that says that Shemen should give forth light, the same Eibishter can make a nest that chaymetz
vinegar can produce light. This is a famous story. He was a Baal Nisim. So in that Sikha, the Rebbe asked the question. He said, in general, the Eibishter performs two different types of Nisim. Two different types of Nisim. Two categories of miracles. One category of miracle, in this case, what were the two options? The Eibishter could have made one miracle that the chometz becomes oil. The chometz becomes oil, then you don't need an ongoing miracle. You need a one-time miracle to transform the chometz into shemen. Now the shemen gives off light. That's one way the Eibishter could have done. But from the story in the Gemara, it appears that that's not what happened. The chometz remained chometz. And yet it gave off light. This is what the Rebbe, so the Rebbe's question was, why did the Eibishter not perform the miracle of transforming chometz into oil? Instead, he left chometz as chometz, and now that requires a nes tamidi, an ongoing nes. Why did Eibishter choose to deal with it in that way? And the Rebbe went on to explain as follows. And that is that there's a person who's chometz in Avodas Hashem. There's a person who's chometz, and there's a person who's shemen. Shemen represents an individual who's perfected himself. Maybe he's already achieved Vaser Davzain. He's on a different level. Chometz, a person who's vinegar, this represents an individual who's still struggling, like most of us. Still struggling on trying to undertake, to do something, and he's not yet ready to totally transform themselves. What's the message from this story? That even a chometz, even someone who's not perfected, even someone who has not achieved greatness, can bring light. I just have to digress for a second here. When I went on Shlichus, Tavshin Mem Daled, 1984, to South Africa, we went into Yechidus, Ganei Natachten. And Shabbos, the Rebbe was around Chav Daled Tevis. Of course, the Rebbe Farbrengen about the Alter Rebbe, etc., etc. Now the Rebbe is talking to a group of Bachrim, 10 Bachrim who are traveling to Johannesburg, Shluchim of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe says like this. He says that it's your job to be mamshich, to bring down the energy of all the Rebbeim, and enumerate the Alter Rebbe, and the Mittel Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, and the Rebbe Marash, and the Rebbe Rashab. And I'm thinking to myself, I was all of 18 years old. My Zayda, the Menachem Volosov, who was a Chassidish Yid, Bizgar, and he engaged in his skafia and his hapcha, as we learned in the Maimorim of Bossi Lagani. Talk about that. Maybe we'll talk about that later. And he used to call me the Americana chocolatnikas. The American boys chocolate that eat ice cream and chocolate. I'd come into the house, and we ate chocolate, we ate ice cream, we ate candy. We came to New York. We lived in Pittsburgh. There was no kosher stores there. We couldn't get a lot of the products. So we'd come here, we'd buy gum. So we called it Americana chocolatniks. And I'm thinking to myself, here I'm 18 years old, far from shemen, maybe chometz, and here the Rebbe is telling us that it's our job, 18-year-old kids, to be mamshech all of the energies and eris of all the Rebbeim. It's powerful thoughts for a second. If you think about the Rebbe's Nesius, and the Rebbe assumed the Tavshin Yud Shvat, and he
conquered the world, literally, who did he do it with? With youngsters, not people who were necessarily perfected, not necessarily individuals who achieved the level of a tzaddik or a beinoni or anything like that. They were the level of chaymitz. But the Rebbe challenged each and every one of us. In my particular case, it was going on shlichus to South Africa, Tafshim and Dalit. And everyone who's sitting around this table, the Rebbe continues to challenge Ad Hayom Hazeh. That even someone who's on the level of chaymitz, he hasn't achieved perfection yet. We don't have the energy, we don't have the ability, we don't have the wherewithal to become who we need to become. We're not there yet. We're working towards that. We're still on the level of chaymitz. Nonetheless, we can give forth light. We can give forth light. However, it has to be done in an oifen nisi. Even people who are ba'ofen shel chaymitz, are in vinegar, haven't perfected themselves. We have to achieve greatness. We have to see through, we have to fulfill the Rebbe's mission, the Rebbe's vision of bringing Mashiach, transforming the world one Jew at a time. That's our job. That's our mission, even as chaymitz. That's the Rebbe. That's what the message that the Rebbe communicated in that Farbrengen and Toshel Chavav. There's another part to it. The Rebbe continues later on, and he says, he talks about Rabbi Isaac Komler. There was a time that Alter Rebbe, there was a mimer that some chassidim came into the Alter Rebbe, and there was chazar of the mimer, and Rabbi Isaac Komler, who was from the youngest of the chassidim, he remained outside. And the Alter Rebbe asked, where is he? Who's the young man? So the young man stayed outside because he doesn't feel he belongs. It's appropriate for him to be inside. And Alter Rebbe said, a young man can werden an alter man. A young person can and needs to become a senior person. Needs to become. The Rebbe was masbid that word from the younger man can very nice. Alpi nigla, alpi chsidis. It's an unbelievable sichah. I don't want to digress and get into the details, but the point is, even if we're a younger man, even if we're the level of chaymitz, this is. Look around the look at each other around the table here. This is it, Chavra. It's our job, each one of us, regardless of what happened yesterday. Regardless of what we did or didn't do yesterday. Someone came to the Rebbe one time and he said to the Rebbe, I can't progress in Avodas Hashem because of everything that I've done or haven't done in the preceding days. So the Rebbe says, what does the Alter Rebbe write in Tanya based upon the Baal Shem Tov, that the Eibishter is constantly recreating the world, me'ayin liyesh. So at every single moment, we're a new person, a new Metzias. So what we did yesterday is irrelevant to what we do today. Okay, now I'm a chaymitz. Yesterday I did this. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. We are sitting around the table. Yud Shvat Tovshin Pei Vav. This is who the Rebbe has. This is the soldiers who have the ability to make it happen, to transform the world, and to achieve what the Rebbe announced. Yud Shvat Tovshin Yud Aleph, the mission statement. Our goal is to make a dir b'tachtenim. The Eibusher should help. That, despite the fact that we may be a young man, we're a level of chaymitz. You know, the Rebbe said, however, the only way it works, however, even if you're a chaymitz, we have to do things in a miraculous way. We have to do things above and beyond our nature. We have to do Parshat B'Shach Akriyas Yamsuf. You know, we all have our inhibitions. We limit ourselves, and we don't recognize how we can contribute. Each person in their shlichus, in their community, in their workplace, and who they're interacting with. We limit ourselves. We question. That's a Kriyas Yamsuf means breaking through those inhibitions, recognizing that we can all achieve greatness. We can all achieve, each person fulfilling the Rebbe's shlichus, and the Saken Elam Malchus Shakai, transforming this world and bringing Mashiach. Chaim Rebbe.
Chaim. Could you give a...
Hey Ashreinu, Matayv Chalkeinu, Yomanoyim Gaira Leino Yomayafa Yafa 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 Yerushalayim Yasheinu Matayv Chalkeinu Yomanayim Gaira Leino Yafa 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 Yerushalayim Aha ya 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 Humanayim Gairaleinu Yafa 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 Yerushalayim Yasheinu Matayv Chalkeinu Humanayim Gairaleinu Yafa 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 Hey Yafa Yerushalayim Hey ya 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 Hey ya 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 Hey ya 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 Matayv Chalkeinu Yomanayim Gairaleinu Yafa 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 Yerushalayim Hasheinu Matayv Chalkeinu Yomanayim Gairaleinu Yafa 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 ya 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 hey ya 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 situation cleared up at 770.
No, you can't walk on Kingston Avenue. Not letting people walk here.
You can't walk.
They close it down. Where there's more, they shut down the community.
Everybody's upstairs in the lobby.
That's why
Can't get out.
That's why people
Not
can't
many
walk.
people leave.
You're done.
Go there?
Hops. 612 Maple Street.
Where's like, I don't go that south. Crazy.
Chaim
Wrong
Uvracha.
neighborhood.
The first kvutza that went to Australia, they went for 2 years, and they came back. And the first night of Pesach, because they went on Shlichus right before Pesach, so they came back before Pesach. So the first Seder, they came to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe wanted to give them from his Afikoyman. The Rebbe wanted to give them Afikoyman. The Shluchim from Australia come back to New York. They'd been away for 2 years. And they came to the Rebbe's Seder. The Rebbe wanted to give them from his Afikoyman, but they had already benched, so they couldn't take. The next night they came again. This time they were smarter. They didn't bench. By the way, growing up, Pittsburgh, they would the Rebbe would send matzah. They would send matzah. One year I picked it up for the Rebbe, and we'd send a courier that would arrive in Pittsburgh 1 o'clock at night. So we'd wait till the matzah came. We'd be walking around the streets, they would come to Rabbi Altein, Al Shalom's house.
With a manila envelope.
In a manila envelope. Right. One year I picked it up. I was staying in New York. I picked it up. I went by the Rebbe. I got it, met the courier, and I sent it to Pittsburgh 1 year. But they came to the Rebbe the second night they hadn't benched, so the Rebbe gave them again, offered to give them from Nafi Kaiman. The Rashag says to the Rebbe, why is he sharing Nafi Kaiman with these Bachrim? It says in Haggadah that Nafi Kaiman is only for Bnei Beisai, for members of the household. Only for members of the household. It's not for everybody. So the Rebbe responded, and you can look it up, there's a Hamelech b'Mesibay, relate all the stories that happened around the Sdorim, etc. So the Rebbe says, these Bachrim who went on Shlichus, on my Shlichus, they're Bnei Beisi. Bnei Beisi. So what does it mean? What does it mean to be a Ben Bayis of the Rebbe? What is the definition of a Ben Bayis of the Rebbe? Because the Rebbe is saying this is particularly important after Gimel Tammuz. What's a Ben Bayis? So it happens to be that the Rebbe himself defined in a Sikha what a Ben Bayis is. What's a household member? What's a household member of the Rebbe? What does it mean to be a Ben Bayis? What's the Sikha? The Sikha is a Rashi Sikha. Nadav and Avihu died tragically. And Rashi brings various reasons why they died. One of the reasons is Shesu Yayin, because they had drank wine, they were intoxicated, they were shikr. And they came into the Beis Hamikdash, into the shikr, Shesu Yayin. So, in that Rashi, the Rashi concludes, Kimoshel HaMelech Ubnei Beisai. Kimoshel HaMelech, like the Medrash brings the Moshel, a king and his Ben Bayis. Without getting into the arichos of the Rashi Sikha, the Rebbe asked the question, it's unusual, this Rashi. He doesn't tell us what the Moshel is. Either tell us what the Moshel is, or don't mention it at all. You mentioned HaMelech B'nei Beisai. Anyways, the Rebbe explains in that Sikha the following. What's the Moshel Melech B'nei Beisai? What's a Ben Bayis? What question in Pshuta Shel Mikra is Rashi addressing? The question in Pshuta Shel Mikra that Rashi is addressing is the tzivui, the instruction, the directive from the Eibishter, Yayin v'shecher al teisht comes later. When they hadn't yet been instructed not to enter the kodesh, not without mashkin. They weren't instructed. So then why are they being punished? The Eibusher didn't yet tell them Yayin v'shecher al teisht. So why are they being punished? Pursue Yayin. So in order to answer that, Rashi says, Kin moshel hamelech ubnei beisai. What does that mean like this? That a ben bayis, someone who's a ben bayis, it behooves them to preempt, to figure out what's right and what's wrong, even when we're not instructed. Even when we're not specifically instructed and directed what to do. A ben bayis figures it out. Simple case. If you want to have shalom bayis in your home, you don't wait till your wife tells you to take out the garbage. You see the garbage is overflowing, take it out yourself. If in the dishes are overflowing, a ben bayis is observant of what's going on in the house. A good ben bayis, I'm not necessarily a good ben bayis, but a ben bayis, a real ben bayis, recognizes that something has to get done, and they take care of it. They don't wait till they're instructed. That's the definition. That's what the Rebbe says, a working definition of a ben bayis. That's what a household member understands on their own without having been told what they need to do. And this is what a ben bayis is, particularly post Gimel Tammuz, really even before Gimel Tammuz. Many of the takonis, let's talk about for a second Tilim and Shabbos Avarchim. Tilim and Shabbos Avarchim. My father-in-law, Reb Chaim Davalei, his Zayda, suggested to the Friedrich Rebbe that we should say Tilim on Shabbos. That's who's to blame. The whole Limud Rambam. Next week we're going to be concluding Sim Tu B'Shvat. We're going to be concluding the Rambam. 3 prakim, 1 parak. This is all something that came. Ben Bayis came up with this idea, presented it to the Rebbe as an idea. It was a little different how it was presented. But a Ben Bayis is an individual who, on their own, they recognize. Of course, there's you have to check, you have to ask El Harab, you have to make sure that what your idea is, that this is what you want to do as a Ben Bayis is consistent with what the Rebbe would want, etc., etc. But Ben Bayis is someone who figures out on their own what needs to be done. I just told the story a few weeks ago. I was in Kranite. I once heard this story. A few times I heard this story from Rabbi Lu. He told the following story. He told it for one reason, and when I heard the story, to me there was another message in the story. That's how a story is. A story talks to different people in different ways. What was the story he told? The story he told is that he went to the former Soviet Union a couple times. He traveled there, and he recognized that he was made aware that they don't have matzah for Pesach. So he began a campaign to collect matzah for Pesach. He went to this group, this kreis, that kreis, in England, in London, wherever he was, and he gathered matzah and he arranged to send it to Russia for Pesach. When I was in Russia, I also brought matzah. Still in need, even then. But he brought matzah for Pesach. Maybe a week before Pesach, I don't remember the year, and I don't remember if it was a week or 10 days. Don't quote me on the details. The details are important, but I don't know them, so I'm just being honest. He gets a message from New York, from Maskirs, that the Rebbe wants to send maybe 10 pounds of matzah to Russia for Pesach. It's almost impossible. How's he going to get the matzah to Russia for Pesach? It was impossible. It became a full-time job to figure out how he's going to get this matzah to Russia for Pesach. This way, that way. Then he heard that there were some yeshiva university boys, Bochrim, who were traveling from New York to Russia, and whatever they were doing. So he figured he's going to go to Heathrow Airport. He's going to find them. In those days, security wasn't like it is today. So he's going to show up at Heathrow Airport, and he's going to give them matzah and ask them to bring it to So he finds these two bachrim, and he says, I have matzah from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It has to go to Russia. So this is Rabbi Shmuel. This is what he said. They said to him, no way, Jose. No way, Jose. We can't bring it. Maybe they had too many packages. They couldn't bring it. They didn't want to bring it. So Rabbi Lou said to them, let me tell you something. Hold on a second. From the moment that you were born till 120, there's nothing more important you'll do than bring this matzah from the Lubavitcher Rebbe to Russia. That's what he startled them. Sometimes you have to use shock treatment to make a point. And he said, listen, you don't have time right now for me to explain it to you because you have to catch your plane. But on the way back, it happens to be they stayed overnight in London. I'll pick you up in the airport. You come to my house and I'll explain to you why this is so important. And they ended up taking the matzah. So Rabbi Lou tells the story, for whatever reason, Rabbi Lou tells the story to bring it upon. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm listening to the story, and I'm thinking to myself, the Rebbe didn't appoint him to be in charge of ensuring that the Jews in Russia have matzah on Pesach. He didn't appoint him. There was never an official designation from Merkez L'Inyanei Chinuch or from one of the other institutions and organizations that he's supposed to be in charge of matzah for Pesach. That's not what happened. What happened? As a Ben Bayis, as a household member, a chassid of the Rebbe, he recognized that there's a void. There's something that's missing here. Jews in Russia need matzah for Pesach. So he stepped up to the plate, and he began a campaign to make sure that the Jews in Russia had matzah. Fast forward, the Rebbe hears about it. Rabbi Lou, can you get 10 pounds? I'd like to send 10 pounds to matzah. So he becomes a shliach because for this matter, because he's a Ben Bayis, because he recognizes a void, because a chassid, even a chassid is a chaymetz and a younger man, we're not perfected and we haven't achieved was medar zayin. We haven't achieved it. We're not there yet. We're working towards that. We are who we are. That's it. We're truthful with ourselves, who we are. We're not lying. We're not fooling anybody. We are who we are. But as a Ben Bayis, we recognize this has to be done, and we do it in a miraculous way, like the chaymetz that has to give off light. That's what I took from that story, and that's what's extremely negeya. After Gimel Tammuz, as we sit in Shevat, and Mashiach is not yet here, and the people who are sitting around this table, and I say specifically the people who are sitting around this table, because I thought you go listen to Farbrengen. Take any Farbrengen you want. Take any Farbrengen you want. Who was the Rebbe talking to in the Farbrengen? Who was the Rebbe talking? Was the Rebbe talking to Chaim Levracha?
Talking to Mayor.
Was the Rebbe talking to heads of institutions, people who were officially designated to run an institution, an organization? No. In the Sichos, maybe the Rebbe had other ways of communicating to them, but the Sichos, the Farbrengens, were to you and to you and to me and to you and to you. That's what the Rebbe was telling. The Rebbe was telling, you're all bnei beisi. You're all members of my household, and the only way that I can get it done is if each person steps up and does his part. I told this a few weeks ago, but I'll tell it again. There was a chassid. At the time, he wasn't yet a chassid. He didn't know he was a chassid. He became a big chassid. He was living in Pittsburgh. His name was Kobe. And Kobe was, he's now in charge of Homeland Security in Eretz Yisrael. That's his position. He's a very high official. There's a Chassidish Yid, like unbelievable. When he was in Pittsburgh, he wasn't yet there. He was learning the psychology of decision making. You know, there's some people who are indecisive. There's a whole course you can learn how to become decisive. You have to make decisions in life. You can't be if you're indecisive, you don't get anywhere. So you have to make decisions. So he was learning the psychology, and I can tell you a lot of stories about Kobe. He started off not necessarily to Shemer Ter Mitzvahs, and then he got involved more and more. Became a Chassidish Yid, and one year I run into him in Crown Heights, Chalamoid Sukkos. I run into him, I think by Simchas Beis Sheva. I run into Kobe. Kobe, what are you doing here? He said, the Netanyahu was coming after Pesach, after Tishrei, for some sort of something, meeting with whoever the president was back then. I don't remember that. Not important. And he was part of the delegation because every time he came, he spoke in front of Congress, in front of a news part or whatever, to report on Homeland Security and what's going on and the threats and how they're preparing for. And he asked, because Netanyahu was coming after Simchas Torah, he asked, can he come in advance? Do they mind? So he came in advance. And when I found him, I think he was sleeping in 770. He didn't even have a place to stay. So I brought him to my Shvan Shviger. And we went in Talucha. Stam Lahar, I was with him in Talucha like 5 years earlier when he was not yet totally involved. He was just getting involved. It was his first year here in Crown Heights for Tishrei. And we walked in Talucha, and we walked to Borough Park. This is what he asked me this question. He said, I don't understand. There's so many Jews in Borough Park. There's so many Jews in Borough Park who could be Mesameach, the other shuls that, why do you have to walk from Crown Heights to Borough Park? I remember this question. To Mesameach the Yidden there. Can't they go to each other shuls? So we spent the whole way back discussing this. Anyways, so now we're walking. This is Taluch, he's a Chassidus Yid. The guy comes to Crown Heights, Chalamed, without sukkahs. He doesn't even know where he's staying. He's sleeping in 770. I bring him to stay at my Shver Shviger. We're going on Talucha. And he says he's describing the work that he does. He says to me like this. Kobe says to me like this. He says, as in his position as the head of Homeland Security, he says the amount of potential threats to any country, but to Eretz Yisrael, it's impossible to prepare for every threat. It's impossible. Maybe there'll be an earthquake. How do you prepare for an earthquake? There's a whole different way to prepare for an earthquake. He says, there could be an attack by Iran. There could be an attack. Who knows what can happen? So he says a couple things. He says, first of all, they use these sophisticated computer programs to figure out what's the greater threat and how to prepare, etc., etc. Then he said to me like this. He said to me that those of us that his offices are in the Kiryat, in the bunkers in Tel Aviv, underground, they have this. He says those of us who are sitting there and figuring this all out, we can't stop some sort of attack, either natural or it's impossible for a few of us, a handful of us, to stop an enemy who's trying to cause harm or damage to Israel. He says our job is to empower the masses, the individual who's walking on the street. If anyone who's been to Eretz Yisrael knows, everyone's trained. If you recognize something that's, you say Chayfetz Chashud. It's a standard, it's something suspicious. So he says we have to train the masses to respond and be observant, recognize, notice, and jump into action and to deal with whatever the threat is. I'm sitting there and listening to him, and I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly what the Rebbe taught us. This is exactly what the Rebbe communicated to our generation, that each and every one of us are shluchim. The heads of the institutions and the organizations, they can strategize. I'm the head of an institution, of a school. I can try to raise money, but you can't raise $750,000 unless each one of you contributes. You understand? You can't unless the masses get involved and they recognize a chayfetz chashud. You'll never protect yourself against the dangers. This is the Rebbe saying. Every yid is a shliach. Every chassid is a ben bayis that has to go interact with his friends, his neighbors, his colleagues, his relatives, and spread the word. Spread the Rebbe's message. It's Otot Kut Mashiach. Do another mitzvah, one mitzvah at a time. That's the only way it can be done. This is our generation. We're Bnei Beisai of the Rebbe. And we're charged with the mission. Each individual, even if we're a chaymitz, even if we're a young man, we're not perfected. None of us are perfected, unfortunately. That's how we are. This is what we have to give. This is what we have. This is it. We don't have more than we're excuse the appearance, construction in progress. We're working on ourselves. We're trying to become something. We're trying to become a mensch, but we're not there yet. This is what the Rebbe has. This is it. These are the soldiers. These are the foot soldiers, the Bnei Beisai of the Rebbe, whose job is to notice and to recognize something, anything that has to be done, and to step up to the plate and make it happen. That's it. That's our shlichus. This is what it is. Of course, the Rebbe instituted certain checks and balances, and you have to make sure, aseh l'charav, and then you have to do it in the right way, in the appropriate way, self-understood. But a Ben Bayis doesn't wait till someone hits you over the head. Ben Bayis does it on his own. L'chaim u'levracha, Yud Shvat Tovshim Pei Vav, sitting here in Crown Heights, Kansiv Hashem Habracha. It's our job to continue implementing the Rebbe's vision, the Rebbe's mission, the Rebbe's charge to each and every one of us to do what we can. Add another mitzvah, be mekarv another yid, spread the word, learn chassidus, connect to the Rebbe, and collectively we will merit to be reunited with the Rebbe, the coming of Mashiach. Meher be'ameinu. Chaim. What's your name?
Moshe Landau.
Happy birthday.
Chaim. No. Yeah. Is that enough?
Da 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 la da da da. Hey ya na 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 ya na 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 ba 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 ba. Hey na hey ya na 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 ya na 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 ya. Hey ya na 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 ma ya na 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 ba ba na 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 ya na 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 ma ya na 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 ma na 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 hey na 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 ya na 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 Where? Maybe wants to bring. Who's the driver? What do you think? La with the Baba, Mamdani Sira, ya, Coming to Pittsburgh, 2 weeks, Pittsburgh. Bring him here. The mayor wants to come here. Give him l'chaim. It's a big story, Mustama. We don't know what happened.
It's going to be national news.
There's a bit of a different problem. They literally closed down all the entrances. You can't even get in and out.
I can't leave.
Make sure you do. I already called backup.
Why are they blocking it? What's
guys
reason?
trying to get in here. They didn't let them.
Well, what are they trying to do?
They're just trying to come in to come to Farbrengen.
No, they're not letting people go. Why? The story ended.
You walk outside.
No.
Probably got delivering.
What?
Chaim L'Bracha. We're competing against exciting news at 770, but this is where it's at.
There's no Farbrengen in my deal 770. You trap.
Terrible. What? No competition.
That's what he says.
So they shut it down.
Yeah. Did you orchestrate this? Listen.
Actually, had to sneak in. They don't let us in. They don't let us go into past S and bench.
But I thought the story ended already.
How'd you get in?
They put ribbon over the what's I met Ripley, he said he couldn't get in. I told him come and then wait till I look the other direction and walk in. People can't come to the Chaim also. Let people walk there.
Chaim L'Bracha.
I think
Lippy gave me like a doctor.
If they have pictures of Madani over here.
No,
I don't know if it's
that's
an
boss.
AI or if it's real.
Or if it's like Gedarka, if it's Gedarka, working with other people.
The Rebbe once made a siyum,
But it became Gedarka.
a Masechta Hayriyas. Fascinating story the Gemara tells. And here's how it goes. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel was a Nasi. He was a Nasi. Reb Meir was a Chacham. He had a position of leadership. And Reb Nosson was the Av Bezdin. Now originally, these three great rabbis were treated equally. So when they came in to the room, everybody stood up for them equally. Same respect was given to all three. Rebbe Shimon ben Gamliel, of course, we have to understand this. When I'm going to relate the story, it's going to sound a little bit suspect, but we have to understand who we're talking about, the people we're talking about, and the deeper understandings of the story. But let's just read what the Gemara says. It's the Rebbe's siyum. Reb Shimon Gamliel was a little bit disturbed by the fact that the other two rabbis who were not on his level were treated with the same respect as he was. So he instituted different level of respect shown to the other two. That's
Oh, good morning.
a little bit less than him.
He couldn't get in. He was like a hill hiding in the roof. This is a minion, please. A little big
Upstairs
minion.
is minyanim non-stop.
Relax. Good morning. Wash Hagabah.
I don't need. I'm good. So you're the only one.
Yeah.
Meir didn't die married yet.
Sometimes it's closed.
I'll daven again.
Can you too? Mincha 3. No problem.
For tomorrow or for today already?
He's only here at 7:49 That's it.
Good though.
So you hear, Reb Shimon Gamliel is a little bit disturbed by the fact that there are other rabbis who are on a lesser level of were treated in the same way. So he changed the way that they were treated. But when they found out about it, Reb Nosson and Reb Meir, they were upset. They're upset that they weren't recognized with the same level of deference and respect as Reb Shimon Gamliel. So they began to plot against Reb Shimon Gamliel. Reb Shimon Gamliel, he was known for his kamus, quantity, not necessarily his echus, his quality. In other words, Sinai Yoker Harim, depth or knowledge, he wasn't. Anyways, they decided that they're going to suggest that the next Masechta that was taught in the Beis Medrash should be the Masechta of Uktzin. Very, very difficult Masechta. By the way, who chose what was learned? The Talmidim chose what was learned. That's how the Taisus says it a few times. The Talmidim decided what was learned. He said, we want to learn this. Imagine, it wasn't the curriculum that the administration chose. The students. Yeah. So they say Uktzin. The reason they did it was a setup because they wanted to. They figured if Shimon Gamliel is not going to be able to handle Uktzin, and the pasuk says, "Mi yimala gvuras Hashem yashmiya kol tilosai." Who should be the one who expresses the thanks to someone who can teach everything, all this Gemaras, and they figured Uktzin, and they're going to remove him. They're going to depose him from his position as the Nasi. This happened before, right? We had Gamliel was deposed, right? So they're going to depose Rav Shimon Gamliel. Happens to be that someone got wind of this and hinted to Rav Shimon Gamliel that this is what's going to happen. So he reviewed the whole Uktzin, the whole night. I have to digress for a second, just because that's how it was. We used to bring different Rosh Yeshivas to Pittsburgh, to the community. So one of the Rosh Yeshivas was Rabbi Steinwetzel. He was a Litvish fellow from Tervadas, but he was Rosh Yeshiva in Bobiv. One year I brought Rabbi Pekarsky, Rosh Yeshiva, my Rosh Yeshiva. I got smicha from. We brought Rabbi Hirschsprung, different people, different years. So I can tell you a lot about the visits from Rabbi Steinwetzel, and he spoke by Sima Rambam. I'll tell you about that also soon. But he said to me that they asked him to faher one of the groups in Bobiv, a particular Masechta. So he managed all night long. He went through the Masechta. He prepared. He didn't go to sleep to prepare to say the shir. But in the morning, the Bobiv Rebbe said he wants to faher himself. So he never ended up fahering them. So he said, can you imagine I had to be up all night preparing and I didn't even end up, that's what he told me. So that's Rabbi Steinwetzel. But anyways, the Gemara says that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, all night long, he prepared. And then, what did he do? He decided to punish Reb Meir. Reb Meir was one of the most brilliant Tanoim. The other rabbi, he was so deep that the other rabbis couldn't understand his level, his understanding, his depth. So how does he punish her mayor? How does he punish her mayor? He punishes her mayor that he refers to him as Acherim. From here on, we're not going to refer to him by his name. We're going to refer to him as Acherim. Others say. And then you look in Shas, you find the mayor is referred to as Acherim. Okay, that's the story in the Gemara. The Rebbe, in that Siyum, asks the question that other Mefarshim ask as well. Not always in Shas is he referred to as Acherim. Sometimes he's still referred to as Rameir. So why is it that sometimes he's referred to as Rameir and sometimes he's referred to as Acherim? If he was punished, that it's supposed to be Acherim, it should be Acherim. So some say that Rameir is before he was punished. When it says the Gemara Rameir, it's before he was punished. When the Gemara says Acherim, it's referring to after he's punished. The Rebbe doesn't accept that for numerous reasons. Here's what the Rebbe explains. What was Rameir's view? What was the Shitta? The Shitta was that Eichus trumps Kamus. Quality trumps quantity. That was Rameir's view, always. It's Rameir's Shitta. So, in Shas, 54 times, we find the word Acherim. The Rebbe writes, all those times, the mayor's view is based upon this idea that Eichus is more important than Kamus. So we call him Acher. If the mayor is just citing an opinion that's not based upon this view that Eichus trumps Kamus, the quality trumps Kamus, we don't refer to him as Acher. The only place that we refer to it. And by the way, why did the other rabbis disagree with him? And did they feel that quantity is more important than quality? Because what happened by the other head of the Nasi of the Sanhedrin who was deposed? What was his name? Rabbi Gamliel. Who replaced him? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah replaced him, right? We say he was deposed and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah replaced. What happened when Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah replaced Rabbi Gamliel? What happens? All of a sudden, Rabbi Gamliel had an opinion that who do we accept into the base medrash? Only someone teichi kibare, only a quality person. A quantity, we don't do it. You know, what happened? They removed the shemer from the, and they allowed everybody to come in. What happened? Oisayim, that day that they allowed everybody to come in, they paskin the whole Masechta Edius. They rolled on many different halachas that had been stuck. And there weren't enough rabbis to address it. Now they have the quantity, you're able to achieve. Because the reason quantity, according to others, trumps quality is because, I sometimes ask the students, I said, who's greater, Einstein or 10,000 scientists? 10,000 scientists are greater than 9, because once every person together, the power, crowd. I'm coming from a charity fundraiser. How are we able to raise so much money? Because quantity ultimately trumps quality. That's the deal. But Rameir held that quality is more important than quantity. Why am I telling this all to you? Recently, I saw a sefer, a Chassidish Yid, a Talmud Chacham in Yisrael. His name is Rameir Alitov, and he explains. He takes all the sefer is called Acher Meimrim. That's the name of the sefer, and he explains. The Rebbe didn't explain all the 53 or 55 times why those examples are quality over quantity. The Rebbe just said that in Shas, whenever it's quality over quantity, we refer to them as Acher. But he didn't explain. So he took the Rebbe's idea, and he showed in 53 cases. He wrote a sefer showing the Rebbe's idea is how it actually expresses itself in those 53 examples. Why am I sharing this whole arichos, this whole? The reason is like this, because the Rebbe, we're bnei beisei of the Rebbe. We're the Rebbe's household members. Everybody sitting around this table is a member of the Rebbe's household, and the Rebbe set many things into motion. When the Rebbe said explained, he made us see him. And he introduced a nekuda, brilliant nekuda. But he didn't finish fleshing it out and explaining it for all 53 cases. What he wanted is a chassid should get up and explain how this applies to the Rashi Sichas. The Rebbe taught us an approach to learning Rashi Sichas. Are we only supposed to learn, are we only allowed to learn the Rashi Sichas that the Rebbe explained, or we're supposed to take the Rebbe's approach and try to understand another Rashi? Because the Rebbe started, whether it's in Avodas Hashem, whether it's in Torah, whether it's in Afotzas Hamayonis, it's post Gimel Tammuz. And here Chassidim sitting around Yud Shvat, Tov Shem Pei Vav, we're asking ourselves, what is it? What's incumbent upon us at such a moment? And the answer is the Rebbe started things, but we're B'nai Beisai of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe wants us to take those ideas and to continue to develop them and to apply them and to use our own ingenuity and our own keiches and our own, the Rebbe, there's a sicha, the Meirdik sicha for the Rebbe. But beautiful. I don't know if you're allowed to say that because you're not supposed to say it. The Gemara says, man, how beautiful this. Okay, so maybe we shouldn't be describing. But there's a machlokes. Who's the machlokes between? Now my head's a little bit. It's in Masechta Bava Basra. There's a question of where the Moshe Rabbeinu wrote a Sifrei Torah. So one of them it says L'koch Sefer Torah and should be mitzad Aaron that there was a Sefer Torah that says machlokes. Rameir says that the Sefer Torah was inside the Aaron, and I think Rabbi Yehuda. Now I'm forgetting. It should be outside the Aaron. It should be outside the Aaron because it said there was a shelf right outside the Aaron where they put the Sefer Torah. The Rebbe's Masber. It's a very big Rashi Sikha, but the Rebbe's Masber like this that. What's the argument to Rabbi Yehuda? The shaila is the Aseres Hadibris is the klal. That's the Torah. Sefer Torah is the prat, the details. The question is, when you go from the klal to the prat, do the details have to be mamish inside the aron, or is it okay if they're outside the aron? What does that symbolize? That symbolizes, and the shita of I think it's Rabbi Yehuda, not Rabbi Meir, that it's outside of the aron. What does that mean? That you have to take what the Rebbe started, and you have to take the ideas and the mitzvahim, and as a ben bayis, we have to identify how we can further those things using our own God-given talents and abilities to take it, and of course, in ensuring, say l'charav, etc., that it's consistent with, it has to be aligned with the Rebbe's Rotzen, etc. We can't go off and do what we want to do and create our own yonim. It has to be in line with, of course. But the nekuda is that as a ben bayis, we have to. The Rebbe started things, and he charged each and every one of us to take those ideas, that inspiration, whether it's in Torah, whether it's Afotzas Hamayonis, whether it's Avodas Hashem, whatever it is, to recognize what needs to be done. Where's the void that has to be filled? What has to happen? And we're that individual shliach that's out there, that's noticing something that has to happen, and the Rebbe empowers us and tells us it can't happen until every single chassid recognizes himself as a shliach to fulfill the Rebbe's rotzen. That the Rebbe, the mission statement the Rebbe introduced, Yud Shvat Tov Shin Aleph. But it's our job to see it through from beginning to the end until we actually are reunited with the Rebbe with the coming of Mashiach. That's our job. And each person has their own keiches and their own chushim. This one's in Torah, this one's in Avodah, this one's in Avos Yisrael, this is in Tefillah, whatever it is. We take our ability and we continue to fulfill this which the Rebbe charged us to do. And collectively, we will ultimately recognize and achieve this which the Rebbe charged us with and challenged us with as a ben bayis of the Rebbe, to hasten the coming of Mashiach and to be reunited with the Rebbe immediately.
Amen.
Chaim.
See, give Penny something.
I'm assuming you've seen this picture.
Come forward to me. That's your father.
Your father, my father.
My father.
That's why.
Meyer Cohen.
Cohen.
That's his father. That's Zadie.
Yeah, but look, this was they wrote a pun after.
What year is this?
No. Exactly.
Watching. Rosendrag, your father put this all up.
Right here, look. The library.
I need all of it. Should I give you my number?
I'll get you there. Marks? Eddie's or Marks?
It became Eddie's became I know. Take okay, you know, you might know, yeah. I saw that picture. I have the yearbook for that dinner. Rusha say no. I know all those. Give my number. Okay, you know. Oh, my no, yeah. Yafa. Rusha say no.
You have to think down with the minion, not for bring. Minion, but not for bring. You have to think to make minion, but not for bring.
You don't know about the triplets? Family secrets. Penny!
Think you trigger enough? Take it off the record?
Sure you can.
She's sleeping right?
She sent me a message.
She gave me the message. She gave me the same message.
The message came through to him about an hour ago.
I'm not saying L'chaim. I'm bringing the seltzer. Tell her. You have to wrap it up or continue?
No,
Good.
he's
very good friend. Around here, usually Robbie's an easier one.
Hit the switch. Hit the switch.
Whoa!
Hold. It goes automatic.
Why is it shutting off?
It goes automatic.
I'll go to the bed.
They're not going to kick us out of here, too.
Relax. Everything's going back on. Toilet.
770 doesn't got what we got.
He walked up.
The Energizer Bunny. Penny!
Totally got it. That was a good show.
I'm serious, just cross-eyed. It's like the whole time he's looking at me.
Kind of totally.
Chaim.
You Shevat gang schlafen in bed.
Not in bed. The chas for his.
It goes off automatically. Went to the bathroom. Where's the Smirnoff?
I don't know.
It goes off every time at this time. Chaim.
By the way, some snack.
Welcome home.
Great thing on top of it. Just put it in your way.
Some monkey.
Undaunted?
Yeah, what do you gotta do? You gotta speak to the police? What do you gotta do? Why do you come?
Why? Action. He needs to show face that he cares about the Jewish community. It's national news.
Is it?
Of course, because they're on CNN, Fox.
Do they know what it is? Maybe somebody gets some money out for security.
They will.
They know
100% there's going to be security barriers around 770.
Do they know what it was? No, what? He's there without.
Moishi, I'm making a minion last night, 770. When I go minion, 10 snacks.
Shutting it
I'm
down.
running over.